May 1940, General Maurice Gamelin made a decision that would determine the fate of France. He committed France's strongest mobile forces to a rapid advance into Belgium under Plan D, the Dial Plan. The objective was clear: meet the German army on Belgian soil and prevent the war from unfolding deep inside France. It followed established doctrine. It appeared rational. It was supported by prior experience. But it left the Ardennes sector dangerously thin. By shifting the strategic reserve north, Gamelin removed France's most capable formations from the decisive point. German armored forces broke through at Sedan, crossed the Meuse, and drove to the English Channel. Within 6 weeks, the French Republic collapsed. France did not fall because it lacked men or equipment. It fell because its strength was positioned in the wrong place. The question is not whether France had power. The question is why that power was guarding the wrong door. After Germany invaded Poland in September 1939, France and Britain declared war. Yet for 8 months, the Western Front remained largely inactive. This period became known as the Phony War. Behind that quiet front, strategic planning continued. French military thinking was shaped by the First World War. The devastation of 1914 to 1918 left a deep institutional mark. The dominant lesson drawn by many planners was that uncontrolled movement invited catastrophe. Doctrine emphasized methodical battle, centralized coordination, and strong defensive preparation. The Maginot Line embodied this philosophy. It fortified the direct German border and was intended to channel any major offensive through Belgium, as had occurred in 1914. If Germany repeated that maneuver, France would meet it there. General Gamelin anticipated a violation of Belgian neutrality. His response was Plan D. The logic appeared disciplined. Northern France contained vital industrial infrastructure: coal mines, steel production, rail hubs. Losing these areas early would weaken the war effort. Therefore, the battle had to be fought as far east as possible. Under Plan D, French forces and the British Expeditionary Force would advance into Belgium once Germany attacked. They would establish a defensive line along the Dial River and integrate Belgian forces into the Allied front. But this was not a limited adjustment. It required committing France's best mobile formations to the northern advance. The French First Army and Seventh Army, including mechanized divisions, were assigned to this maneuver. The British Expeditionary Force, fully motorized and highly trained, also moved north. This concentration represented France's operational flexibility. Once committed, it could not be rapidly redirected. That commitment rested on a critical assumption. It assumed the main German blow would fall in northern Belgium. But assumptions are only safe when the enemy shares them. The Ardennes forest stretched across southeastern Belgium and northeastern France. Dense woodland, narrow roads, steep ridges, and limited crossing points along the Meuse River characterized the region. French assessments concluded that large armored formations would struggle to move quickly through such terrain. Any advance would be slow, congested, and vulnerable. Because of this evaluation, the defensive density near Sedan was limited. The French 2nd and 9th Armies held the sector. Many units consisted of reservists. Anti-tank and anti-aircraft assets were present, but not concentrated at levels seen in the north. The fortifications were fieldworks rather than major permanent structures. The High Command believed the terrain itself would delay any large mechanized thrust. But terrain does not defend itself. German planning evolved in a different direction. After revising earlier concepts, German command adopted a plan that reversed French expectations. Army Group B would attack the Netherlands and northern Belgium with significant force. The assault would appear decisive and confirm Allied expectations. Yet the primary effort would occur further south. Army Group A, containing 7 panzer divisions, would advance through the Ardennes. Its objective was not territorial occupation, but operational rupture. Break the line at Sedan, cross the Meuse, drive west toward the Channel coast. If successful, the Allied armies in Belgium would be isolated. The German concept relied on a predictable Allied reaction. Plan D guaranteed that reaction. On May 10, 1940, Germany attacked. Army Group B struck the Netherlands in Belgium. Airborne units seized critical bridges. The scale of the northern assault appeared to confirm French assumptions. General Gamelin activated Plan D immediately. French and British formations advanced into Belgium in accordance with prearranged timetables. The maneuver unfolded as planned. It seemed that France had anticipated the German move correctly. At the same time, Army Group A began its movement through the Ardennes. German columns advanced under strict traffic control. Movement continued day and night. Logistics were coordinated to reduce congestion. The terrain slowed them, but it did not stop them. By May 12th, German forward elements reached the Meuse near Sedan. Reports of armored concentrations reached French headquarters. Yet the primary focus remained on the north, where the main Allied armies were already engaged. The decisive point was shifting, but France's strongest formations were moving away from it. On May 13th, German forces began crossing the Meuse. Instead of waiting for prolonged artillery preparation, German commanders relied heavily on concentrated air operations to disrupt defensive positions and communications. Infantry units established bridgeheads. Engineers constructed pontoon bridges to allow armored units to cross. French defensive coordination weakened. Communications were disrupted. Counterattacks were fragmented and delayed. The opportunity to contain the bridgeheads narrowed quickly. Once armored units crossed in strength, the operational balance changed. Germany did not pivot south toward the Maginot Line. It drove west. This maneuver, later described as the sickle cut, aimed at the Channel coast. The objective was to sever the Allied armies in Belgium from the rest of France. German armored formations advanced rapidly, bypassing resistance in targeting key road junctions and supply lines. The speed of the advance strained the French command system. Centralized control mechanisms struggled to adapt to a fluid situation. At this moment, the structural consequence of Plan D became unavoidable. France's best mobile formations were deep in Belgium. To counter the breakthrough at Sedan, they would have needed to disengage, redeploy over significant distances, and reorganize. That required time and coordination. Both were in short supply. Road networks were congested with military traffic and civilian refugees. Communications were incomplete. German pressure prevented orderly withdrawal. The strategic reserve no longer existed in a central position. France still had manpower, but it had lost flexibility. By May 20th, German forces reached the Channel near Abbeville. The Allied armies in Belgium were encircled. The trap was complete. Encircled forces withdrew toward Dunkirk. Operation Dynamo evacuated more than 330,000 British and French soldiers. The personnel were preserved, but heavy equipment was abandoned. For France, the loss of its northern armies was decisive. In early June, German forces launched a renewed offensive southward. With reserves exhausted and operational coherence weakened, sustained resistance became increasingly difficult. The French government relocated. On June 16th, Prime Minister Paul Reynaud resigned. Marshal Philippe Pétain assumed leadership and sought an armistice. On June 22, 1940, France signed the armistice agreement. The country was divided between German occupation in the north and a regime based in Vichy in the south. The Third Republic ended. Was this collapse inevitable? Modern military historians increasingly reject explanations rooted solely in morale or national character. The French army was substantial in size. Its armored vehicles were often technically capable. Its soldiers fought in numerous engagements with discipline. The outcome was not predetermined by weakness alone. It was shaped by operational positioning. The decision to commit the strategic reserve to Belgium created exposure at the decisive point. When the Ardennes assumption failed, The High Command lacked the capacity to restore balance quickly. Germany concentrated force against vulnerability. France dispersed strength away from the critical sector. In May 1940, France did not lose because it lacked courage. It lost because its power was positioned away from the point of impact. If you find this analysis valuable, consider subscribing. This channel examines the decisions that shape wars and the consequences that follow them. The Battle of France was not lost in a single engagement. It was lost when the strategic reserve moved north, and the decisive door was left unguarded.